The Unforgotten Promise. Chapter 1. A Chance Encounter. I stood at the edge of the beach, the salty wind whipping my hair into a frenzy as I scanned the familiar shoreline for any sign of life beneath the gathering dusk. The waves crashed against the shore with an urgency that mirrored my racing heart. A symphony of longing and hesitation. It had been years since I'd set foot here, ever since the world shifted on its axis and the dreams I'd chased far from this sleepy town. Now, as I returned from my sister's wedding, the sand beneath my feet seemed to swallow me whole with memories both sweet and bitter. My gaze settled on a lone figure standing by the water's edge, silhouetted against the fading light of day. Recognition dawned in the form of a sudden lump in my throat when recognition turned into disbelief. Ethan Thompson, the boy whose laughter was once as relentless as the tide and whose eyes could make time stand still. Time had etched lines across his face but couldn't erase the unmistakable spark within them, the same sparkle that once made my pulse race with every shared secret, every stolen glance. His eyes found mine, a slow smile spreading across his tan skin like wildfire. "Lila," he whispered as if to remind himself of reality. I smiled back, feeling the years melt away and leave me standing here on this desolate stretch of sand, where the sea breeze carried whispers from a lifetime ago. "Can you believe it?" Ethan asked, closing the distance between us. "It's been ages." The words hung in the air like wisps of seaweed caught by the tide as I searched for an appropriate response that wouldn't betray the turmoil within me. It was foolish to be surprised. Life had taken us on different paths, yet our journeys had converged once more under the same sunset I'd left behind all those years ago. "I never thought you'd still live here." He chuckled, his voice a low rumble, and clapped a hand on my shoulder before leaning against an ancient oak tree mangled by time and storms. Small towns have a way of keeping secrets. As we fell into conversation, the world around us receded, leaving only two souls entwined in the present. We spoke of distant dreams and dreams deferred, but our laughter was tinged with regret. A bittersweet melody that resonated deep within me. Ethan's eyes still held an intensity that made my breath catch. His hands, strong from years of hard work on his family's farm, gestured eloquently as he reminisced about lost summers and love letters penned in the dead of night. I couldn't help but think how different our lives had turned out. I'd pursued a career in journalism while he remained here, rooted in this earth that had shaped us both. The beach, with its ancient stories, held secrets we never dared to speak aloud. Ethan spoke of his father's health struggles and the farm's financial burdens, but his eyes betrayed the unspoken desire for more. Dreams unfulfilled and paths not taken. As he spoke, I felt the weight of a promise long forgotten, one that had been left buried beneath the waves of youth's passion. The truth was, Ethan was the last connection to the person I once was, the girl with stars in her eyes and a dreamer's spirit. And now she stood before him, an adult, her world battered by life's tempests. "I'm sorry it ended the way it did," he said softly, as if sensing my thoughts. I was young. I shrugged, trying to brush off the pain of what could have been, but Ethan's fingers closed around mine, offering a comforting squeeze before letting go. The warmth lingered on my skin long after release. It had been a lifetime since we'd touched like that. An innocent yet electric connection forged in our shared dreams and first loves. "You never married," I observed, his eyes clouding with memories best left buried. "I almost did." His voice was low and reflective as he faced the horizon, lost in thought. But then life took me in a different direction. The moon rose above us like a silver crescent, casting an ethereal glow on the water's surface. A gust of wind carried a seagull's cry across the shore, bridging the gap between our past and present. He turned back to me, eyes shimmering with regret and longing. I often wonder what could have been. The unspoken question hung in the air. If we'd taken that leap of faith together or let love slip through our fingers like grains of sand. The memories came rushing back, moonlit strolls along this same beach, laughter echoing under starry skies, the promise of a lifetime we'd made beneath an ancient willow tree. Ethan's words drifted in my mind. I'll wait for you always. An oath sworn on the cusp of adulthood that time and distance had severed. But here we stood, suspended between our pasts and a future we knew nothing about. His gaze met mine, full of regret tinged with a flicker of curiosity. It was enough to send shivers down my spine. I'm sorry too, I whispered, a confession to the breeze, which swept it away before he could hear. Ethan's hand closed around mine once more, this time not letting go. He pulled me into an embrace that felt both familiar and new. Tender yet urgent. Time may have molded us differently, but those arms held a comfort I'd never forgotten. It was as though the years we'd spent apart melted away with every beat of my heart against his chest. You were always meant to return, he murmured against my ear, sending shivers down my spine. In this new reality, our bodies swayed to the rhythmic lapping of the waves and the pulse of a shared heartbeat. Ethan's breath was warm against my neck as we spoke in hushed tones, reminiscing about the dreams we'd once chased and sharing glimpses of lives that had unfolded. The world had moved on without us, yet here, beneath this fading light, it felt like no time at all. His hands roamed my arms before finding solace at the nape of my neck, reminding me how it was to be wanted, to feel alive. As we parted ways, Ethan promised to join me for dinner that night before his sister's wedding reception. Promises forgotten and dreams deferred hung heavy in the air like the impending storm clouds on the horizon. We exchanged a look. Half regret, half promise. As I watched him disappear into the twilight, leaving me with the echoes of what we'd left behind. In the quiet of my room that night, Ethan's face seemed to haunt my reflection. I couldn't deny the thrill it sent through me. Chapter 2. Whispers Beneath the Willow. Moonlight filtered through leaves as Lila and Ethan sat beneath the ancient willow tree where they once vowed their love for one another. Ethan's hands traced delicate patterns on the weathered wood, an unconscious echo of his touch from years past. Their voices blended with the soft rustling of leaves under the moon. It was here that they found each other again after a lifetime apart, under the starlight that had witnessed every promise and missed connection. I'm sorry I left, she said softly, regret etched in her voice like the gnarled branches above them. I thought you needed someone more than me. Ethan's gaze met hers with understanding, his lips grazed her hair before finding hers again. The first true kiss they'd shared beneath this canopy of love and lost dreams. His fingers intertwined with hers, a silent apology for every moment spent apart. They spoke of past hurts and fears that had kept them at arm's length, but their eyes shone bright with a chance to rekindle. I was young, she explained, and you were here. Ethan's hand found her thigh, tracing the line from knee to hip through the thin fabric of her dress. The willow tree bore witness as they made amends for lost time and the paths they hadn't taken together. His fingers moved with a confidence born of second chances. As their lips met once more, it was as though no time had passed between them. An embrace that promised what could have been. Lila's hands found his hair, her nails tracing the familiar contours of his skull. The kiss deepened, and they stilled for a moment, savoring each other's taste. His hand roamed upwards to rest at the swell of her breast before dipping lower. An invitation that left them both gasping. You're beautiful, he whispered as she arched against him. They came up for air, Lips brushed again in a tender embrace before he kissed a trail down her neck, savoring each other's salt and sweat. Their bodies pressed against the tree, seeking solace and answers to questions unasked amidst whispers of what could have been, had they chosen each other over the paths life had laid out. Lila couldn't help but wonder if there was still room for more dreams in their lives now, or if this chance encounter would be a fleeting dream they'd wake from soon. Ethan's hands slid higher, brushing against the neckline of her dress, eliciting soft gasps that melted into moans of desire. In this second chance at love, they found solace and a newfound passion. They spoke softly between kisses. Of jobs and lives lived apart, of dreams pursued but never fully realized. As they strolled beneath the willow's sheltering branches, Lila felt herself drifting back to the girl who used to dream of becoming something more than her hometown reporter's life. They found themselves at the old picnic table where it all began. Ethan pulled a photograph from his pocket, the day they exchanged vows that never were. A smile tugged at the corner of Lila's lips as he pressed his forehead against hers, promising a fresh start under the starlight. "We can create our own happily ever after," he whispered before pulling her close once more. As the sun began to set over the fields where dreams had been made and broken, Ethan asked for another chance at life and love together. Lila's heart swelled as she nodded, their lips meeting in an embrace that seemed to seal the deal. In the morning, they'd face reality. Today was for them, beneath the willow tree, rediscovering what could have been amidst the stars they'd forgotten. They laughed with abandon until laughter turned into tears and then more kisses, each one a bridge spanning time's chasm. It wasn't long before they settled on a blanket spread under the tree where their dreams had first blossomed. Ethan's hands were steady as he brushed his fingertips against her hair, finding the scars life had left behind but also tracing a path of rediscovery. It was both exhilarating and terrifying to touch each other with such intimacy. "I want you to be happy," Ethan confessed, his voice a gentle caress amidst the rustling leaves. Lila's breath caught as he pulled away, his gaze meeting hers intensely, their eyes an ocean of what could have been yet still might become. "You deserve happiness more than anyone I know." Ethan walked back into her arms once more as they sat in silence under the night sky, hands intertwined with a newfound sense of belonging. "I'm not sure if this is real," Lila admitted softly against his chest. They were two people trying to recreate what had been lost or embracing their second chance at first love. His lips brushed gently across her hair before finding hers once more in a tender kiss that spoke to the dreams they'd left behind and the ones yet to come, dreams of building a life together, having children, and growing old. The silence that followed spoke louder than words. They both knew they needed time to rebuild but had found their way back to each other. They rose as one, hand in hand, beneath the tree where promise met reality, under the silent witness of stars that twinkled like old dreams. Chapter 3. The Promise Reclaimed. Lila and Ethan stood at the threshold between their second chance and reality, holding hands after an unplanned night of rediscovery. They looked over their shoulders one last time before stepping into the light of dawn, leaving the willow tree's shadow behind. Lila wondered if she'd be able to balance the love they found with the life she was meant to lead as a journalist in New York. With every step forward, Ethan held her closer, offering reassurance and affection. "You'll always have me," he whispered against her lips before they embraced beneath an open sky full of possibility. They shared a look filled with promise and fear for what came next, but also determination. The car was cold when Lila slid in beside him. Ethan drove them toward the airport to pick up his belongings, knowing she had to return to New York. A chance encounter at the beach led to a second chance. Or perhaps this love story was meant to be unfinished, left on that fateful day by the ocean. Lila realized that life didn't always offer do-overs, but some encounters were too powerful to ignore. Ethan's fingers intertwined with hers as he navigated the winding roads of their youth. It was a moment they'd carry into her New York life, or perhaps it would be left at the beach, an unfinished love story beneath the stars. The plane tickets in Lila's purse seemed like a cruel reminder that this second chance was not meant to last. Ethan took them out and looked at them critically before ripping them into shreds, leaving them both with the freedom of choice. "Come back to me when you are ready, my love." Lila smiled, feeling the weight of his gaze upon her as she closed the distance between them. "I am now." He kissed her with a hunger that reflected their years apart and the passion they still shared. Ethan's hand rested on her thigh, offering reassurance as he navigated the curves and straightaways of familiar roads. He asked Lila to be with him in New York City, to weave journalism into their love story, for there were stories to tell together. They spent the next weeks in quiet exploration. The ocean was where it began, but this chance encounter led them to a second chance at life, at love under an open sky that knew no bounds. A week later, they were living together in a cozy apartment overlooking Central Park. Ethan wrote her first column as his lover, detailing their unconventional meeting by the ocean and the chance at second loves. They spent days exploring New York City while Lila settled into her new role. In the evenings, they returned home to make love beneath the stars, knowing they'd found a deeper connection in that moment. Their stories merged with those of others, finding solace in each other's embrace. The city awakened as it often did, but now there were two souls exploring its beauty hand in hand, Ethan and Lila, bound by an unforgettable day that had become their second chance at love.